All right, folks, get ready to laugh. In today's Globe at Home, we're joined by British comedian Billy Connolly and comedy note writer Nick Zano. Billy's been entertaining crowds for decades and is in town doing 8 shows at the Loeb Drama Center starting tomorrow. Thank you both for joining us.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Billy, you've been a comedian for as long as I can remember, but I read before that you were a ship welder and a parachuter. That's quite a career change.
Oh yeah, it was forced upon me. I was a lousy welder and a frightened parachutist. So it kind of came very naturally to just go and have a laugh somewhere.
So you started in what, I guess the early 70s, and Jay Leno used to open up your shows, is that right?
No, he didn't. It was just, I told someone the last time I was here, when I was performing in Norwood years ago in the 70s, I went to see a band called America. And then I met them socially in Los Angeles just in the last couple of years, and one of the guys said, "Do you remember the comedian who was on the same show?" And I said, "No, not really." He said, "That was Jay Leno." And it was a place called Lenny's on Route 1 here, near where I was performing. I couldn't believe it.
It's been about probably 15 years, maybe more, since you've performed comedy in Boston. What do you remember about
I don't remember
here?
much. I only remember the time when I started here in Norwood and Danvers and stuff like that, and becoming a Bruins supporter and a Bobby Orr fanatic. That's all I much remember about the whole Boston experience. It's been so long, and my memory's all shot now. I'm ancient. I'm about 96 years of age, and I don't remember very much.
You are a liar. You are credited with changing the stand-up scene in Britain. What do you think of today's comedians?
I think they're Britain. I think they get better all the time. There's a new kind that really impress me, like Ricky Gervais, who have taken really bold humour onto the television situation. Whereas television used to be very tame for me, and live comedy was wild and good. But now television comedy is becoming very wild and weird, and there are some great British ones, you know, and Ricky Gervais is kind of leading the field. It's fantastic to watch. But the rest of the comedians, like stand-up, I never go and see anybody because I always end up stealing their stuff. You know, about 6 months later, the idea will pop into my head, and I think it's mine, but it's just something you heard years ago. It's very weird.
But you've been in films like Mrs. Brown and the Aristocrats.
Yeah.
You've been on TV. You had your own sitcom with Billy, and you were on Head of the Class. How do people recognize you between all of that and being a stand-up comic?
It's funny, some of them don't know that I'm a comedian. Some people think I'm in movies or I'm an actor or something. Maybe it's the way I walk, the way I comb my hair or something. But most people know me as a comedian, and I see myself as a comedian who occasionally gets a break in movies. I don't see myself as an actor. Although I do like acting, I really enjoy it. I love the different disciplines of acting and comedy, but it's comedy for me, you know. I love it. I don't see myself as a stand-up though. When I started in comedy, they didn't say stand-up. You were just a comedian. That's a comparatively new expression. And the equivalent in Britain was a front cloth comedian. Yeah, he was. You stood at the edge of the stage with the curtains behind you, the cloth, and your job was to talk until they changed the scenery behind you, and then you were finished, and you come off, and the star came on. Usually a singer.
I don't think people realize people weren't doing what you were doing when you started in the 70s, being yourself and telling stories about your own experience.
Yeah, I was just trying to be what I thought a comedian was, you know, but other comedians was usually wearing blue mohair suits and the haircuts like Perry Como and talking like that, talking about Pakistanis and mother-in-laws and all that. And I didn't know that stuff, so I just, as a hairy individual, I just did it to the best of my capacity. And I suddenly found I was original. I didn't know I was original. I was just trying to be the same as everybody else. That's the only reason I wrote songs. I was trying to be Bob Dylan. I didn't know the chords. So I thought, I'll write one kind of the same, as near as I can get with the stuff that I know. And I think that's how you get there.
Is it true that sometimes you don't know what you're going to talk about? You don't decide what you're going to talk about until very near the beginning of your performance?
Absolutely true. It's really, I've got an ideas book, and I think I have it here. I have a wee ideas book that I write things in, but they rarely make it to the stage. Some of them do.
Now, are these real life events that you just usually draw from?
Yeah, just things I bump into, you know, like aging, I've got something about obituaries here. I don't know what I would ever say about that. Yeah, because I've taken to reading obituaries. It's one of my new hobbies. A friend of mine died about 5 years ago, and I read his obituary and the other ones on the page, and now I'm completely hooked on the unsung heroes of the world, and that's where they are. In the obituaries, all these people you don't know who've done astonishing things. I'm completely hooked. I've really discovered something that makes me happy.
I've noticed in that book there were the first 3 pages were filled and pretty much everything else was blank. And you go on stage and you make 2 hours out of that.
Oh, that's what I do. I have a framework of a show. So if I get no ideas, I can do it. But the perfect show for me is, and it was a guy, I think he was in Washington or somewhere, and a journalist said that I bring a Christmas tree on the stage naked, and not me, the tree, and decorate it before your very eyes. There's a naked man with a tree. Mother, there's a man in television talking about climbing trees naked.
That certainly would be original as well.
Yeah, but that's what I like to do. I like to add and subtract, and sometimes I change punchlines, and sometimes I have stories where the punchline's at the beginning. But you have to tell the whole story to make any sense of what you just said. And then when it kind of teeters towards an ending or a death, I have to get out of there and into whatever I'm going to say next. And that's where my show lies. That's where it makes me different from other guys, I think. I'm not really sure. I've never analysed it.
You're in a class all by yourself, and it has been a pleasure. Again, starting tomorrow, you can see Billy Connolly perform at the Loeb Drama Center. Thanks so much for joining us. Oh, it's been a lot of fun.
Oh, the pleasure's mine. Thank you very much.
Thank you.